Commander, welcome to Atlaka Games. Today we're playing a 10v10 Steel Division on Lenina, and we're playing with the 29th Tank Korpus, or Tankovi Korpus. I'm not really sure how to pronounce them, but this is the first time in a while that we've played with an allied deck, and I thought I would share this match with you guys because it was pretty intense. There was a lot of good trades. It was back and forth pretty much the entire 60 minutes. So strap in, get yourself a snack and a drink because we're going to be here for a while. So we start with our first push. We start moving our reconnaissance units up towards this little forest. The objective for us in this game is going to be to push all the way up to the spawn point. You're going to see that it becomes a little bit more difficult due to the fact that this entire little grass area is here, or tree lines, basically completely nullifies anything in the center. So you have to capture this and then fight your way up here. So our first objective, or basic objective, is to capture this small farmstead slash farmhouse slash village slash something. As you can see, we start trading here. We start trying to take this tree line here. Our ally is pushing in here, trying to stop them. We put our T-34 to fire, but as you can see, a Tiger tank is coming down the road. Here's an AT gun. It's firing our T-34. And the main assault is coming through this road here, and it'll eventually flip over here. And he's going to stay stagnant. And this is going to be a massive trade for this one little, basically, brush. And we just lost a T-34. Just lost our reconnaissance unit too. Start out the game pretty tense. Very frustrating towards the beginning. And here goes this Tiger tank firing again. Our ally has a ton of these SU-152s. I'm taking and hammering. But their firepower is quite impressive. Then we're bringing in our command tank. Sporting the green and yellow. And some more infantry. And he's got his own T-34. They begin pushing extremely hard towards this center part of the map. Like I said before, it just ebb and flows. We're both going back and forth, trading with each other. This guy's driving backwards like a maniac. Look how cool that looks in the background. Seeing the smoke, the explosions. We just lost one of our half tracks, but the squad is able to survive. And we set up a fire control here to try to keep them out of this forest up here too. And what we want to do is move forward, capture the small farmstead, and move to this little forest area here and cut off all access coming towards from the spawn point. The trick here is to capture this one here as well, as that would also negate anything coming down this hill. As you can see, what we're trying to attempt that with our T-34, trying to stop any push coming from their side. Our T-34 is over here firing over here. And I believe this T-34 was knocked out by something either here or over here. I didn't catch it much during the match because I came so engrossed in what was going on here. T-34 was just destroyed. And that was our command tank. It's right there. We lost our reconnaissance. And at this point, we were pushed out of the forest. The T-434 was knocked out. Right there. Those Panthers are absolutely brutal. Difficult to kill, and also extremely well when it comes to the long range. They're just absolutely just can cause so many problems. I enjoy using them. It was kind of interesting to be on the receiving side of one. I have been on the receiving side of one before on the Soviet side while playing the Germans, but I've never really played too much as the Soviets or any of the Allied decks. Just out of preference. Set up a crappy T-34. This T-34 has no chance of surviving here, as you can see. And a bad call on our side to send it up. But we need to get some fire support into this small little forest line if we expect to take out any infantry that are hidden there. And the T-34 mysteriously once again was taken out. I'm guessing it was shot from this direction here or here. I still don't actually know what took it out. Remains a mystery. And I was getting a bit frustrated too with the fact that it was taking a lot to just try to secure this, and felt like he did barely enough just to take it. And I traded pretty horribly in there, especially in the start of the match. So this T-34 was supposed to change things up, and I'm pretty sure it was knocked out too. So we decided to hold up for a bit and try to move this T-34 through to this forest line that's coming up right now. Mainly due to the fact that it's just going to be good against infantry. Might not be good against other tanks, especially that Panther. And there's a Tiger hidden somewhere around here too. And this T-34 is just completely outmatched by it. And it has no really hope to, unless it can get around the sides or behind it, to really take out those heavy German cats. There's a big push over here on this side here. And it looks like there's another big push over here. Like I said before, this match was very close. It really could have looked like anybody could have won it at any time, especially towards the beginning, because they had so much advantage in equipment, in quality, and everything, and we were somewhat undermatched by it. Especially since I didn't have my IS-2s yet, and I was playing only with my T-34s. And we take advantage of the fact that we can move that T-34 into position, get it into the tree line. Once we see it moving, we decide to press forward with it, sending the infantry at first. As I said before, this tree line is super important, especially to capture this point here. This point's difficult to hold unless you can hold this tree line behind it. Launching some mortar strikes to soften up the enemy, and then launching our small little, you could say a little attack. Despite the fact that only a few mortars were dropped, we were able to pin down the Fallschirmjäger. Tank comes in and starts giving some fire support, moving the infantry up to go ahead and get the surrender. And with that, we capture the forest again. Our ally decides to support us a bit, moving some of his units up too. And this is where the battle gets really intense. And they notice how important this crucial little forest line is. So now it becomes just a battle of attrition between these two lines here. This entire road just becomes an entire battlefield. And with our ally finally being able to capture this point here, despite getting pushed here, still gives us an edge. It may not look like it, but it definitely does. The one thing about Steel Division that's something that I really enjoy is the fact that you can play the time limit. I'm not very well educated in I would say many things, but I understand time limits, especially from my background in boxing. So it's important to also be able to use all the time you can get. I know some people are against that, but that's what I've been taught as a boxer that was important. And something I also bring into this game too. Because if you got 36 minutes, you're going to use all 36 minutes. If you got an hour, you got the whole hour. Especially these 10v10s where they can get really intense really quick. So we sent one of our small squads up as reconnaissance. They're getting absolutely obliterated. They didn't really have much fire support outside of this little T-34 just hiding in the woods right here. And another one popping up too. We had him right there. They actually look pretty cool. Just hiding and watching that building with the machine gun in it. There's actually a guy inside of the building. And here's where a lot of our problems came in. This vehicle itself here. This was probably like 90% of all the issues we had pushing into that forest. This King Tiger was a problem too, but I would argue that anti-tank gun was really shredding us. And like I said before, until our IS-2s come out, it was honestly painful to push forward. So you can see we're collapsing on our left flank, but still pushing forward here. They're pushing over here too. The town is still being contested, but generally it's on our side mostly. And our right flank is holding pretty tightly. It's mainly due to the left, but that will change pretty soon. The machine gun over there was effective too. And here we bring one of our IS-2s. First time actually even using these two. I think I might have played them wrong in the beginning. Just because I'm not very familiar with this deck itself. I tend to play a little bit more careful than most. Don't like to push too hard if I don't have to. And I like to build up as much as possible. And he feels like we're vulnerable, which we are, and starts pushing up a bit. But we have nasty surprises on our side, because we still have these, I would say, assault guns? What are these again? I believe these are assault guns, right? One more like heavy infantry support. Well, these still come in handy in defending this little area. Even if they would have pushed through, we still would have been able to hold them at this line here. And one thing we decided to do later on, as you can see, start putting some of our T-34s on this flank here to get some fire control over here. As you can see, they're completely exposed. So the entire theory was to go around and strike here. Going this way was too dangerous because of the tree line. And we know he only has one machine gun over here. So keep them pinned here. Get all their attention on this one little spot. And then press this way. It takes some time to actually get the maneuver to work because we actually needed the numbers at first. You can't just do it with one tank. And you can't do it with just a bit of infantry either. It has to be a combined arms attack. So as soon as we got the push here, we had to push on both sides. Can't just be one. So the pressure has to be consistent. And right now we're bagging them up. They're trying to press as hard as they can because they know they have these tanks and anti-tank guns all littered around the area. There's more, trust me, around this area too. And he's going to start bringing them in slowly. And right now it's trying to stop them long enough for us to take out this. The elephant. This thing was, like I said before, a nightmare. And I felt like the more we threw at it, the less it died. It was just a monster. I decided to bring in my IS-2 to give these guys some fire support. S2 had been wiped out by that specific anti-tank gun. But at last, the IS was really just wasn't enough. It brought enough support, brought enough firepower, but I didn't think I'd have used it well enough until I got the gist of it later on in the match. And now it's not going to be till like the next maybe 30 minutes. And even when it looks like he's able to push, we still had some reserves that we were holding back. These Grellies are really effective, especially against infantry and armored vehicles too. Our IS could have taken out that Panther, but once again, it's this vehicle here that causes all the problems. King Tiger's dead, and so is my IS. He brings up his own IS. We decided to bring up some of our T-34s. Made the mistake of bringing it up front. With that monster out there, scores another kill on another IS-2. We decided it's time to retreat. As long as that thing's out in the field, none of our tanks can really push forward. And I got the idea to bring it up as close as possible to see if we can take it out, since he was pushing in with his SU 152s. But as soon as I realized that it was a dumb idea, since we know we have a ton of burned out tanks here, we decided to move this tank towards the tree line, as long as it can survive the fire. Our T-34 over there is trying its best, just doesn't have the capacity to take on anything over there, and at least it bided us some time. So it wasn't worthless. And that's what this whole match is, time. Tries to push confidently into the forest, but we always have a backup plan. This T-34 is damaged, pretty damaged, honestly. And our T-34 is holding out. Here comes the airstrike. And it fails. Too much anti-tank, anti-air support. And he feels confident, so he's pushing up more infantry. but it's also still not pushing up his vehicles. And finally, that thing was killed. I guess that freaking nightmare. I remember screaming in celebration when that thing was just torn apart. Just how much damage and it had just caused us, and so much panic and everything, that it was good to see it die. And it's a good morale booster too. And here comes the next wave. We pick off the transporters. It is kind of dangerous to take these guys on in the forest, since they have Panzerfaust. But as long as we have some type of infantry, we should be all right. They have to get a little bit closer to actually be effective with it. Start moving the tank up a bit, just to take out that transporter there. And we end up getting our T-34 destroyed. It's also very unfortunate, because we were going to use that same T-34 in combination with these two to try to push around. As you can see, we're pushing. And that was the whole plan, to take out this vehicle here and eventually make our way through these guys. We had still plenty of these T-34s, so we had plenty to lose. And that's the one thing I did like about the Soviet deck, was that it gives you plenty of metal to trade. Compared to some of the other decks where you have to be very conservative, especially on your more quality vehicles. Not saying that there aren't quality vehicles here. As you saw, we had our IS-2s. But we also have the ability to trade our T-34s at a higher rate than anything else. So he tries to claim the forest. We're still hanging on to a small little sliver, thanks to our allies' lieutenant. And this is the problem with bringing in your units one at a time. We needed to have a nice build-up like he did, and that's all because he was doing better trades than us. We weren't doing. He was just getting better trades on vehicles and everything. And in the beginning, that was very effective. But as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit bogged down. Even though they're having some success on the right flank, they're technically bogged down at the moment. We have enough to hold them back. And still, even though we took that terrifying vehicle out, we were still struggling to get over there. It was so discouraging just to deal with these guys so bunched up. The forest is just littered with our T-34s. Just trying to move infantry back into the forest. It didn't seem like he was trying to move back in. We didn't have the infantry at the time. And he concentrated more on armored vehicles, which has its advantages and disadvantages too. Brings up another King Tiger. And it just fires. You can even feel the impact on the gun when it fires. Let's watch it again. Burns up one of our trucks. There's a burned out IS-2. As you can see, the left flank has already started to repair itself a bit. The line is stable all across. No one's really moving. And he tries to make a small assault into the forest again. If he can move some vehicles in there, it would give him quite an advantage over us. And he sensed that he could push. That's why he pushed a bit here. But ran into stiff resistance, especially from this IS-2 hitting here. Good play by our teammate. And it gives us time to build up, which is the most important part. Try to hide this T-34 here, which is an absolute mistake. Pretty stupid on our part. At the time, I thought I could hide it around the corner and try to shoot, but it didn't do that. And I'm not even sure why I came up with that idea either. And thanks to that airstrike, we were able to clear out those guys and still hang on to the force, despite the fact that they had an overwhelming fire advantage over us. And our teammates' artillery was just spot on tonight. Bring a T-34 here to keep an eye on the forest itself. He's moving some of his reconnaissance units to find out what's going on, some of his armored cars. He decided to move a T-34 up to clear it out. His lieutenant is killed. And once again, the forest is completely unoccupied, except for his armored car. But he presses a little bit too far and catches one. King Tiger gets destroyed again. Huge win for the artillery. And for the first time since the start of the match, almost 30 minutes ago, the front is starting to shift. And we're in the lead after either being on the back foot or being on a stalemate. It does seem like they have been pushed. They pushed quite deep into the town here. The fighting here is quite intense. An absolute meat grinder. A Bakhmut simulator, if you wanted to say so. Everything is completely just blown up and torn to pieces. While we're fighting for like empty fields. He's got the tree line, which is very difficult. It's completely under the control of the enemy. And they bring another wave out in the open, which is risky to begin with, considering the fact that he has a front line here. But the general idea is to get him inside the forest and launch another assault here. Move our T-34s in. I remember celebrating when I saw this, only to the fact that it's been a while since we got a tank kill in the match. We wanted to set up the fire control of our T-34s, our Our ally decides to move in a command unit to give us better fire support. And there's an AT gun over there. Which is why it's super important to control these forces here. Because it gives you such good range, good cover, good ambush potential. And our infantry is rushing. That guy hit the brake way too hard. And we start moving in. Here's a Tiger tank. Just breaks our T-34 apart, cracking its armor. Discouragement hits once again. The fact that I felt like they just couldn't break through any of these German tanks. And once again, I think that's due to the poor tactics I was using, because like I said before, should have built up some of my infantry here, maybe some AT guns, or pay some AT guns over here and start really concentrating on taking this side here. I was too fixed on moving forward and just pressing forward. Just going straight line right into this command point here. And instead we should have captured the flank and moved our way through. Which is what I think. I might be wrong, but that's the idea I got from the game. You lose another truck. Everybody's got to get out and get to the tree line. That round devastated that poor guy over there. That's kind of funny that it just killed the one guy. They're also pressing over here. Tiger died in an interesting way. And now we're bunching up our units here. What I really wanted to create was two solid lines of defense, just so we could press our tanks to the right and then strike them here. Catch them on two separate sides. So control the fire support from here and here, like we said before. 1, 2. Like a combination. But in order for us to do that, we need tanks. Put a solid 1, 2. And he starts pressing forward to try to take some of these vehicles out. Noticing that their front line is starting to get a little thin now. They're bunching up a bunch of those guns and everything over there. Yeah, I said the hell with it. I'm going to start hitting them with as much artillery as I can. And I move some of these units up to really harass them. And still building up our T-34s and our tanks on this side. And that was the gist of the entire, you could say the entire operation right now. Getting these up there, making them focus only on the forest, making them focus on one point, which is also the mistake he made too. If I was him, I would have also pressed here, because we were very weak on our left side here for quite some time. And instead he kept fighting us here, despite the fact that our ally was also not pressing forward here. So everybody was playing quite careful, taking their time, being as tactical as possible. Excuse me. So you see we moved another one of these off maps. He was under tank fire. And we're moving another T-34 to build our platoon to be ordered in order for us to move forward. And that was the point of the artillery strikes. It was to hold them at this road, push them out of range, and then strike. And this is where our counterattack really starts. Hope you guys are enjoying this so far. Like I said, this was a quite enjoyable match for me. It's almost at 12 a.m. and it was difficult because I had to get up in the morning, but God, I enjoy this match. He finds out where these guys are at. We got to move them out of the way. As there are too vulnerable to lose right now. They still have plenty of these. We start pressing our attack on their T-34s by still building up too. So we're attacking and building up at the same time. I felt like maybe I attacked a little too soon. But the fact that we had done those artillery strikes, I wanted to go ahead and push forward a bit. And I sensed that we were about to take that Tiger tank out. But once again, it's cruel. And instead, I'm the one that loses the tank. So I press out a platoon to capture the point. Now that it's under heavy fire. This tank consolidating its fire support, trying to take the tank out. Still pressing. He does a great move. Keeps shooting. His Tiger tank proves to its reputation. Giving my T-34 all the problems in the world. And finally, the point is captured. Our guys are still making their way out there. It's not fully captured completely, since we also have to capture the surrounding areas, but at least it's under our effective control at the moment. We bled so much in that forest just to get this little point. And I was so happy when we got there because it had been almost, what, 40 minutes, and we had just touched the point. And it almost felt like, even though it was the most minimalistic gains we could make, it just felt good just to be able to take it. There we go again, building up. Unfortunate, since that Tiger tank was able to take both those T-34s out, and devastating defeat on our part. Because we lost 2 tanks that were responsible to covering our flank here. So at this point, we want to hold that Tiger tank. So we got to make sure these guys make it there. To this burned out little, what it used to be a farmhouse. And as you can see, the tide has turned. Now we are pressing heavily on all flanks. Breaking through here as they press down the road. So they are still having some successes, even though the tide of the game has turned. And that's due to this breakthrough, and this potential breakthrough here. Especially out of all 3 of us here, I was the only one that actually was able to capture the point at this point. Even though it was limited and it was quickly collapsed. But we're going to press back to it because we had bled too much for it. So we sent another wave of T-34s. The Tiger tank was still menacingly looking at us. Still delivering as much damage as it could. It's already killed 2. And at this point, I thought it was going to be 4. That's 3. The point's still captured by us, even though we're bringing in more infantry. The real game changer here is when our IS-2 start getting into the mix. And now it's a 1, 2, 3. So a 3 punch count combination to capture this 1 point, coming from here and here. It's always important to attack from multiple directions, not just going straight down. Like the same error we had done so many times over and over again, going in one separate direction, like this infantry's going here, and instead of attacking on 2. And that's one thing I learned throughout the match. And that is the 4th T-34. Lost trying to support this infantry going forward. Folsom Jaeger is defending the point. And their infantry is just stranded and falling back. They had a tenacious defense regardless of our push. IS-2 falls back. Decided to move it more towards the town. And we're still not going to give up on this 1-2. Because so far the plan has shown some results. We've been able to capture the point. And that to us is a signal that their defenses are cracking. Here they're able to capture this point back after a good counterattack. Our teammate here is finally able to break through some part of the forest and is pressing forward. And the entire line looks like it's stabilized and it's being pushed forward. So you can see they're pushing here too. They've pushed back this entire armored assault here. And we're still going to continue pushing on our point. Moving our IS-2 around the forest this way. To deal especially with that Tiger tank. T-34s are still being built up and brought over here, while the IS-2s press forward with the infantry. Launching an artillery strike to keep them pinned here, while our tanks and infantry move up. And we decided to engage that Tiger tank, since it had caused us so many problems and heartaches. Moving another IS-2 this way. Seeing there's more than one, I didn't want to risk it, considering the fact that these units are very expensive. And a huge win on his part. Bigger than these T-34s. Almost double the points. And this might have given him a false sense of security, because he didn't realize I had another IS-2 in the woods until he had shot this infantry. That AT gun, we're going to take it out with the IS so we can move this tank up. I wasn't very confident sending this T-34 against that Pack 40. Pretty good tank duel so far. He was very skilled with these Tiger tanks. And our inexperience with this deck here really, really shines through. Especially when you see the entire match. Doing another off map. These Tiger tanks have held the line for quite some time. And finally we get one. Which means now we attack. He senses the change in the tide. Starts falling back a bit. One of those monsters shows up again. The crew was killed, so that was a good thing. Tank is dead. AT gun is dead in the water until it gets murdered. And now we press forward. We have 2 IS-2s, and he has 1 Tiger tank. Killed immediately. And now we can comfortably push our infantry towards this point. And reaching our minimalistic goal for the match. Capturing this point. And finally, say we actually honestly won something. Because we did win, in a sense, by holding this line here and then pushing forward. But here, capturing this point is it's a good morale booster. Because it you know, it just shows some, for everything we lost, we gained something. As you can see, the entire line is pretty stable and pretty much the same it was the entire match. And this small little breakthrough solidifies our victory in the match. Because we're able to take this point and brings it to 18-14. Now this Pack 88, very dangerous against aircraft and our tanks. And the fact that it was taken out was a good thing. Frees up this entire area here. Why it's so important to control this point. Puts these 2 points in jeopardy. Hurts them also in the forest as well. Because they have to focus some of their units here. And puts this town in a lot of danger. Now we're moving our units in. Taking the area for good. And keeping our IS-2s on the watch on the road. But he still has vehicles. Light launching a slight counterattack. Knocking out that infantry there. These guys are just taking cover. Since it had been such an intense bombardment. But more importantly, the point still holds. We decided to go ahead and capture this sector here, which is something I brought up earlier, that this should have been captured from the beginning. And this is something we should have pressed on from the start, but we didn't do it. It would have helped this point here, and this point here would have been in danger. But regardless of it, we still decided to press on it, and we had captured this point without this point either. Sets the reconnaissance unit up. And it looks like the counterattack was still ongoing. we start trading better with his units once we have this area captured. Before, as you guys can remember, it was a tragedy what we were trying to attempt here. And we paid dearly for it with a lot of, destroyed tanks, a lot of destroyed infantry. They recaptured the point for a little bit. But they've also lost a lot of units trying to recapture it. And they're still dealing with the these IS-2s. So it's still not easy for them. This one little mortar from the start of the game had been quite effective. We lose a T-34 here. With 5 minutes left in the game, we're going to allow them to take this point and hold it. We're going to take it. And we're still going to hold on to it towards the end of the match. Good artillery strike. Here comes a Panzer. Takes a good shot. I love how the rounds even bounce off the ground that way and is knocked out. He has a Pioneer squad there. We have the entire area basically zeroed in. We're trying to cover that one excuse me, that one infantry squad that's pushing forward. Four minutes left into the match. He's launching an airstrike. Knocking out that Porsche Tiger. We take that ET gun and we press this one squad with less than 4 minutes left on the clock towards this one last point. The IS-2 is now moving forward too. And once again, the point is in her hands. And now we're pretty much pushing on all fronts. Especially on the right-hand side. Launching a mass infantry assault. Hoping to push more towards the forest. Trying to get as many points and as much ground before the end of the game. As we come down to close to the 50-second mark. $55 seconds. So now we're nothing. We move everything forward as the match winds down. As their forces begin to disintegrate from just the wear of non-stop waves of Soviet tanks and infantry. We take out that squad. Getting us complete control of the overall area here. 18 seconds left. And that is the end of the match. It was definitely a long one. There's one thing I like to state. As you can see, he did get more kills than I did. Tragic, especially towards the beginning. But towards the end of the match, we started to even things out. And it just took almost 40 minutes for us to really get into the game. Before that, we were getting really hammered by his Tigers. As you can see, our kills all came with our T-34s. Our IS-2s, especially our IS-2s, started really making their impact in the match. And most of our heavy losses really were our tanks. We lost a lot of T-34s. Look at the list of that. And we traded at a higher unit amount. But we definitely got the more quality kills. Well, this is the end of the video. For the guys who made it to the end, you guys are legends. You know, like if you like this type of content, subscribe if this is something you guys want to do. You guys like seeing. We're going to be running 10v10s, Steel Division matches every single day. We play this game consistently. We'll make sure we get this content out every single day so you guys can see the matches we're playing. And I hope you guys have an excellent day, an excellent Tuesday, and have a good one.